everyone. Welcome to the December 21st Father, Son, and Holy Sport NFL show. I'm G-Man. That there is T-Money dressed up for Christmas. How you doing, T?
What's going on? Merry Christmas. It's our holiday episode here. Excited to dive into some football. We got a full slate of Saturday games because Christmas is Sunday.
Christmas Eve games.
It's going to be a fun weekend.
Yeah, Christmas Eve games and Christmas Day games.
Yeah.
And you and I are both competing against each other in the fantasy playoffs. So we'll be talking about that in the fantasy show. We're now in the Final Four. You and I have to face off. I didn't want to do that to you, man.
On Christmas Day. Going to be a fun one at the Ross household.
That is true. Hey, man. How about my man Baker rejuvenating these Rams, man? He's got them fired up, doesn't he? They're kind of playing with a hop in their step.
Yeah, they're playing well. His offensive line is just banged up, and then they lost their center in the first series of the game. So he's just running for his life out there. But he looks solid. He wasn't playing horribly. They're doing all right. They're doing all right.
He wants that contract, man. He wants to show that he's worth it. Yeah, he's going to keep on fighting all the way to the last game, man. Hey, what do we know after this week 15? We're moving into week 16, NFC. How about the Giants, man? Big win over the Commanders. Daniel Jones, he won his first primetime game. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. He's kind of Kirk Cousins-y in that way. But it was a boring game. He didn't do much himself. Saquon Barkley's just one of the best running backs in the league.
Hey, everyone in the NFC South now is still alive for the playoffs. All of them have losing records. Crazy.
That's crazy.
And over in the AFC, how about Jacksonville causing a stir? Trevor Lawrence, the former number one. Guys, those Jacksonville Jags playing like they want to make the playoffs, man.
I know, man. He is the real deal. He's playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the league the last few weeks, and his stats back that up. The guy's headed in the right direction now that they have a legitimate coach.
Now, last 6 games, 14 touchdowns, 1 interception. He used to throw a lot of interceptions. Now he's got that ratio back, and the Titans and Jags play in week 18 for probably going to be the division title. It's going to be crazy, man.
Yeah.
But hey, we start week 16, which should be a playoff atmosphere in New York as the Jags take on the Jets Thursday night. So the Jags got to get past the Jets there in New York, and we'll see what happens. Hey, y'all, do us a favor, press that like and subscribe. We appreciate your support. Let's kick it off with the Ross Rundown for week 16. Cover some of the hot topics for you from a fantasy and bet and overall viewing pleasure perspective. Hey, T-Money, let's start with the GOAT, TB12. He lost to Burrow, crumbled with mistakes in the second half. Looked great in the first half, but not in the second. And have we seen the end or the big downfall here from Tom Brady?
Yes, he's done, man. At least in Tampa Bay. And I know the line's a little hurt, but when you're the best ever, you got to know how to work around those things. And he's got 20 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. He led the league in touchdowns last year. He's down in yards. All he's doing is completing dump-off throws to his running backs. You can see that, and that's why his completion percentage is as high as it is. His air yards down the field is down. He's missing wide-open throws to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. He just doesn't look right, and this team crumbled versus the Bengals. He threw 2 interceptions in the second half. He also had a fumble in the exchange with Leonard Fournette. Just a lot of mistakes that you don't see for him. And that's the difference here is if he needs protection, that's fine. But he's making mistakes. And that's where maybe the mental fatigue or the physical attributes aren't there for him to do what he needs to do. And that's not make mistakes, most importantly. So, that's why the Bengals were allowed to come back in this game is because of those mistakes. And then it was just embarrassing. Joe Burrow was the best quarterback on that field, and it wasn't even close.
Well, look at the first half for a second. At that first half, the Tampa Bay looked great. They looked the best they've looked all season. And even the announcers and the analysts were saying, this team is playing like we thought they should have played all year. That first half, if they can just make that their formula for the full game. They had it going.
Yeah, I mean, that was also Tony Romo, just sucking Tom Brady off. Really, that guy couldn't get enough of Tom Brady. So
Oh
I
my
don't
God.
agree that they played amazing. I mean, they only had 17 points, and the Bengals played probably their worst half of the year. So let's just pump the brakes on like the best half of their season. And if it
I
was,
thought they looked no, I think they look great too, not just Tony Romo. I did too. I thought I watch a lot of Tampa football. I got a lot of those guys in my fantasy teams. They looked great, both running and passing in that first half. And I thought if they could do that again, they would have won the game. Now, Bengals are a tough team. So it's not like they were playing, the Saints or the Browns.
yeah,
Bengals are tough. They're going to fight their way back. I like how Brady's being a leader, man. This is the first time he's really had this kind of losing. And I like how he says, hey, we got to go back to work. We got to improve. We got to work harder. We got to be more determined. And, it's just like anybody, he said, that in whatever, if you're in an industry, if you have a job, whether you work at UPS, you're in the military, you got to work when you're down, work harder and be more determined. I like that he's taking leadership like that when he's down like this.
yeah, that's fair. So is Brady washed or what, from your opinion, after you watched that game?
No, I thought he played great first half. He's got the leadership. People follow him. He's got the respect. He can lead that huddle. He still has the skills. He can make throws. Yes,
Yeah,
he makes a mistake once in a while, but his arm is still a gun, and he hits the throws most of the time. I know they've lost three of their last four. They go to the desert on Christmas night to face the Cardinals. They're going to get a win there, and they're going to get this back on track.
they better get a win there. Let me just say last thing. You got to start getting Mike Evans involved more. The
Yeah,
first half, he's their best receiver.
he did.
Brady
He was
loves
involved in the first half.
I know Brady loves Chris Godwin as well and loves to throw it short. And that's his slant over the middle guy. But getting Mike Evans involved makes your offense more dynamic. And he did in the first half.
He did.
They had 5 receptions, and then he did nothing in the second half. You got to
Yeah,
get that guy involved. He's your best receiver. He's your best receiver. Got to do better, Brady.
I agree. I agree.
Let's move
Evans wasn't
on
involved.
to I agree. Let's move on here to the Cowboys, though. They lose in overtime to Trevor Lawrence, the next guy up here, the next new QB. But the Cowboys specifically, are you concerned about them moving forward after this loss?
Yes, I am concerned. I know you like those straightforward answers. Yes, I'm concerned, but they've made the playoffs. They're in. How effective will they be? We've been talking about that on this podcast for the last few weeks. The last 2 games are concerning. But Jags are getting better, but they're still a 6-8 squad. So now let's don't talk like the Jags are some superstar team yet. And they had to mount a furious comeback against the Texans. So those last 2 games aren't concerning. The defense is really giving it up after
Yeah.
being so strong. So what is with their defense, man?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Micah Parsons, looked like the best player in football for the first 6 weeks and then hasn't done anything since, really. This Cowboys team is very interesting, but I think the biggest concern right now is Dak Prescott. Right now, he's missed 5 games. He's 3rd in the NFL in total picks, and he has the most since he's come back from injury. That's concerning for me. He can't protect the ball, and he's making poor decisions.
Okay, I mean, I respect you know what you're talking about, but I think Dak's one of their strong points. I think it's the defense. Dak has been playing well. Against the Jags, he had 77% completion percentage and threw 3 touchdowns. That's
And the
pretty good, man.
game-winning pick 6 as well, right?
Well, hey, they converted 56% of third downs. That's good. And I like how Dak is starting to run with the ball. That's one of the things that is one of Dak's strengths that he got away from it in the last few years. I like that he was running more in this game.
Yeah,
I think
that's
Dak's
fair.
one of their strengths, and they got to keep. I think the offense will do what the offense is going to do the job. I think it's the defense. If it shores it up, they got to figure out what the holes are, why they're having problems. But they got
Agree
a
with you.
brutal 3-game stretch coming up Eagles, Titans, Commanders. So they're going to
Yep.
have to bring it.
Luckily for them, Gardner Minshew's starting this week, so that's fortunate of them. But yeah, I think I agree with you for the most part. The defense has not been playing to a Super Bowl level. Dak Prescott's got to be better though. He's got to make better
Yeah.
decisions. He can't turn the ball over. When he has
Yeah.
thrown more than 25 passes this year, he has multiple picks. That's the problem with Dak Prescott. He's good
Okay.
if you keep him reeled in. Once you open the
Well, come
playbook
on,
up a little
Dak.
bit,
Let's go, man. Let's go, Dak. Come on, man. You got to show T money. Cowboys hosting the Eagles on Christmas Eve, 4:25 p.m. And guess what? They're favored. They were favored before Hurts got announced that he was not playing. And it's not set that he's not playing, by the way. They said probably won't play. I just heard that, that's still up in the air. But either way, the Eagles are the dog in this game, and they're probably going to lose because every time we see a line like this, we're thinking, how the Cowboys favored? They're probably going to win this game, man.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter to the Eagles if they win or lose this one as well. So it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised here.
I went over the Eagles for Christmas against the bitter rival would really make Christmas for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Hey, talking about the Eagles, man, the line has moved a lot because of the announcement of Hurts' shoulder injury. Let's assume he is out. Are you worried about this team and Hurts' injury as much as Vegas is?
I am. I'm actually concerned. It's his throwing shoulder, and those tend to linger. I mean, this derailed Cam Newton's career when he got hit in the shoulder, right? These are big deals, and taking a week off, two, it's probably still going to be sore going into those next games. And what's really made him dynamic is the fact that he can run the ball and has been really good throwing the ball. If you're hurting throwing, that's going to diminish your game. And now him as a dynamic runner is going to be tailored, right? They're not going to put him in RPO positions anymore. They're not going to do quarterback runs anymore because they're scared of him re-injuring that before the playoffs and on this playoff run. So I'd be a little concerned. I am worried if I'm the Eagles because that offense revolves around him being able to not only run the ball, but be a dynamic thrower down the field to Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. And so I am worried. This is a concerning injury.
Yeah.
If it was his other shoulder, I wouldn't have as big of a problem. But it's his throwing shoulder, and this can just compound here in the next few weeks if they don't rest him or he doesn't heal up properly.
I agree. These running quarterbacks, they take hits, and Lamar we've seen injured, and Justin Fields, and these guys get hurt. He ran the ball 17 times on Sunday. That was the high on the team. The Bears hit him 13 times. Third highest total in the NFL in week 15 was the Bears hitting Jalen Hurts. And for the season, he's now third in the NFL in terms of hits.
Wow.
Justin Fields gets hit the most. And second, believe it or not, is Daniel Jones. But third is Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. I mean,
another thing is, I think they can win with Minshew. I wouldn't count them out with Minshew. Minshew last December stepped in when Hurts was injured, went 20 for 25, 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, and they beat the Jets.
Well, let me ask you this here. I'm gonna move this question just to Hurts was favored before this injury happened for the MVP, but everyone's case against him is that his team isn't good enough. If Minshew was to come in and win versus the Cowboys, especially, does that help or not affect or hurt Hurts' MVP case?
I don't think it hurts it if it's one game. I mean, if it gets into 2 and 3, and then it affects the playoffs, I don't think it hurts it. But he's got to get back within the next couple of weeks to keep going with that MVP, I think.
Yeah, I think the odds have already shifted into Mahomes' favor after the injury announcement. I think this would hurt him if Minshew came out and beat the Cowboys, who are a 10-win team. I think that would hurt his MVP case because, hey, look, anyone can come in and compete with this team because of how good the pieces are around him.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Mahomes is slightly ahead of him now, and Hurts was way out in front. So, yeah, it did affect him already. Next up, the Eagles, 13-1 now. just one more to clinch the number one seed in the NFC. They got to clinch the number one seed in the NFC. They have to win one more. So they do have a little bit to play for there.
Yeah, yep. We'll see what happens this weekend. But let's move over to last week's Thursday night game. The Bills and the Dolphins played, or Saturday, I'm sorry, or Thursday. I can't remember. There's too many games this past weekend. All right. The Bills and Dolphins played in what was supposed to be a blizzard, but really didn't happen until, towards the end of the game, the fourth quarter. The Bills win on a last-second field goal here. Tua played all right. So do you have more or less faith in Tua after this loss to the Bills?
I don't say I have more. I probably have maybe less faith in Tua after losing to the Bills. I just think that he can do more. He was touted as being able to do more. It seemed like he was doing more at the beginning of the season. So he's just not, taking over the game like I thought he might.
Yeah.
And his weapons are not doing as well as I thought they were doing earlier in the year.
Yeah. And
I don't know what's off on this team.
Once again, all he does is throw a slant to Jalen Waddle and he takes off for 70 yards. So that happens every week because they're the two fastest guys on the field. And I hate giving quarterbacks credit for that, right? I know they see the protection and they see the defense and they see that slant's open for. I just don't like giving credit, like that. His passer rating was good, but he had a 56% completion percentage, 230 yards and two touchdowns. One of those touchdowns, like I said, was a big bust. I didn't think he played particularly well. He in the fourth quarter when it mattered, he was a no-show. So I continue. I'm losing faith in him week after week after he continues to skid following a great start.
Yeah, I guess that's what I saw too. I expected more out of them. They're now 8-6. The Patriots and the Jets have 7 losses, so they're both one game behind. The Dolphins are making it tough on themselves. They can get knocked out of the playoffs. There's a pretty high chance. I mean, higher than you think. I saw a 15 to 20% chance they don't even make the playoffs.
I know, it's crazy.
And so you look at their schedule, who they have coming up. They got the Packers, the Patriots, and the Jets. So the Patriots and the Jets are week 17 and 18, and they lose those 2 games. They're probably out.
Yeah.
So they're really dig. When someone that we thought was going to challenge the Bills. So their Tua has fallen off, and that team has fallen off. Let's move over to the NFC. Let's talk about the Vikings. Uplifting, comfort behind win versus the Colts. They're buzzing out there in Minnesota after this unbelievable win and comeback when they were down 33-0. Are they proving the doubters wrong, T-Money?
No, I think, to me, it proved the doubters right. Because Indy is one of, if not the worst team right now in football. They continuously turn the ball over. They're not a good team, and they're probably the worst head coach team in the league with Jeff Saturday there. That was an embarrassing loss for the Colts. Not the fact that the Vikings had to go to overtime, down 30 to the Indianapolis Colts. I think that shows who they really are. And being in one-score games, I know the stat is they're like 8-0 in one-score games or something like that, 10-0. It's a crazy stat. To me, that shouts that you can't close games or you're trailing in games. And good teams or great teams in this league have a lot of dominant performances and then some close games. Whereas these guys lose games or all their wins are close. They don't blow people out. They don't show their dominance enough. And this once again leads them to getting a close victory in overtime versus a not even mediocre team, a horrible team. And so I don't think this proves that they're a good team. I think this proves the doubters right that they can barely hang with Indianapolis. And how are they going to hang with Philadelphia and the Niners in the playoffs?
Yeah, I do think that their offense this year is more impressive than prior years. And it may be because everybody's together. Everybody's together. Everybody's healthy. Seems like they've had injuries every year. They've kept this offense together, and they're producing and getting better. Justin Jefferson, unbelievably, is better than he was last year.
Yeah.
And so are some of the other guys. So this offense, I think, has gotten better, much improved. They're 11-3. Their offense, I think, is their biggest strength. And now we look at their defense. Can that hang in there? I'm talking about playoff type atmosphere,
Yeah.
playoff type competition. Can they do it? They win the NFC North. T Money gets the pick right. You picked them, man. You predicted they would win that NFC North. I thought Green Bay would do better than this. Green Bay is still in it, though. Aaron Rodgers is behind those Vikings. They're now 6-8. The Green Bay Packers, and still in the hunt. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. The offense has looked more impressive and more complete. Dalvin Cook's solid. They have a good run game. Now they have an elite tight end as well. I think they have a really good offense, and I think that coaching change has really helped them in that respect. But their defense is so horrible, so leaky. And I think that it was not an impressive win to me. It was an awesome game to watch. Not only from a fantasy football perspective, having Dalvin Cook, but just an awesome comeback in one of the cooler games you'll remember. But if you're doing straightforward analysis on the Vikings, to be in that position in the first place is more embarrassing than winning that game.
And they, you wonder about that offense. If they have a bad day in the playoffs, can the defense hold them together for them? They only scored 7 points versus the Eagles and lost. They only scored 3 points versus the Cowboys and lost. So when that offense has a down day, can the defense pick them up? Minnesota's hosting the Giants Christmas Eve Saturday at 1 o'clock. Minnesota favored by 3. The over-under is high, 47.5. So that Minnesota offense looks like it'll be rolling again, man. Hey, let's keep going, man.
Yeah, let's do it. I want to ask you about Trevor Lawrence and them Jags getting another big win. And I want to know, do you think this Jags team is going to make the playoffs, G?
Well, first, Doug Peterson's done an awesome job.
Yeah.
I mean, 5 years ago, he wins the Super Bowl. He comes in and resurrects this team after Urban Meyer. I mean, they could do it. They could definitely get in the playoffs, and he deserves much of the credit for what he's put together, the coaching staff, the belief, and what he's done with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, that guy deserves so much credit and should be up for one of the Coach of the Year candidates.
If they make the playoffs, he should. Yeah, that's true. I like that. They play the Jets, the Texans, and the Titans. Control their own destiny right now. They win out, they're in the playoffs. Or if the Titans lose and they play the Titans at the end of the year again, they still control their own destiny here. If they win out, Jets one's going to be a tough one. What do you think? You think they can make the playoffs here?
Well, I think the Titans beat him in that last game. Last week 18, I think the Titans beat them. They could beat the Titans. I'm not saying it would not or could not happen, but I think I got the Titans to win this division. I'm going to stay with my pick there. I think if they do it, they lead the division right now. They're going to have to beat the Jags to get in there, though. So I think it's coming down to this week 18 game. Jags have a 43% chance, though, to surpass the Titans, but I don't think they do it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an awesome game. Don't forget, these week 18 Jaguars are nothing to mess with. Carson Wentz and the Colts learned that last year. So they're a tough team to beat in week 18 when playoffs are on the line. So
that is true. Hey, did you know that all three, speaking of building this team, did you know all three of Trevor Lawrence's top targets did not play for the team in his rookie year?
Impressive.
Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, and Evan Ingram did not play his rookie year, and he's got all of them really contributing. 63% of his targets.
Done a good job bringing in talent. They got Calvin Ridley coming in next year, too. It's going to be a solid team moving forward with ETN in the backfield there.
Hey, we mentioned Thursday Night Football. The Jags are back at it with the Jets. That's going to be playoff atmosphere in New York. And the Jags need to go in and show what they're made of here and get this W if they're going to compete, man. Hey, did I hear him? T-Money, did I hear him? Hey, I think it's Cousin Randy. He wants to do the Chug and Chant, T-Money. Let's go for this week's Chug and Chant with Cousin Randy.
Hey, welcome into this week's Chug and Chant. It's Cousin Randy here with another good one coming because I'm coming for everyone in the whole organization. They're all a joke now. Let's get this chugging and then let's chant. All right. Cousin Randy is done with the New England Patriots. Fire them all. Send them all home. Robert Kraft, too. I'm done. Bill Belichick. It was a disgrace this past weekend. You got Matt Patricia and Joe Judge calling these plays. And then you got people out here on the Patriots lateraling. Mac Jones gets stiffed into the ground by ex-Patriot Chandler Jones. I'm sure that felt good for him. That was a joke of a game, joke of a franchise. If you're going to run the ball, you might as well knee the ball. And then after the game, Bill Belichick says we couldn't throw Hail Mary because he didn't have a strong enough arm. The quarterback coach, the offensive coordinator, now the head coach, everyone, fire everyone. This franchise is now a joke. You guys used to be culture is above everything. No, Tom Brady left that because you guys weren't good enough. And he needed more weapons, and he needed better coaching, and he needed more than culture. And now he's gone. And you guys are the laughing stock of the NFL. It's time. Your reign's over. Patriots are done. Robert, sell the team. You had it at an all-time high. This team's a joke. These coaches are a joke. Bill Belichick, I'm sorry you're done. Mac Jones, I don't know if you can recover from the embarrassment of getting your face shoved into the turf on a game-winning stiff-arm touchdown. I'm sorry. This team is done. Fire everyone. G-Man, T-Money, where do you stand on these Patriots?
Hey, whoa, man! Randy's not even funny tonight. He's like serious tonight,
Serious.
man. Cousin Randy, fire everyone in the organization. Man, this guy's fired up, and Randy's been right, man. I want to give props to Randy. Great call on the Jags and Trevor Lawrence last week, needing to be taken seriously. And you and I both agreed with him, T-Money, on that one, that the Jags need to be taken seriously. But Randy's on the mark a lot of the times, and
yeah.
hey, if the Patriots don't make the playoffs, and right now they have a 20% chance, right now, they basically need to win out. I'll agree with Randy, but I'm not going to agree yet.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, they're third in their division right now, so it's going to be very tough to make the playoffs. I really think it's going to come down to one of those last spots between the Dolphins and the Patriots here. So the Jets could get a head start. They beat the Jags this weekend, but man, that was just an embarrassing loss. Belichick's got to start taking more. I agree with Randy. Just start taking more responsibility. You put this offense in place by putting Joe Judge and Matt Patricia as offensive coordinators. You think you're above everyone else, high and mighty? This is, I'm Bill Belichick. I know what I'm doing here. I can put a defensive coordinator at offensive coordinator. We'll be fine. No, the offense is stagnant. They're making mistakes. Mac Jones is regressing. These are the years where you're supposed to be taking leaps as a starting quarterback and a second-year quarterback in the league. Bill Belichick's got to get it together. I think not only has his drafting been poor, but his decision-making has been poor, and his ego is getting in the way of making a good football team get better.
Hey, we called that here in Father-Son Sports back in the preseason, this coaching decision on the offensive coordinator. We were calling that out early on, man, and it's coming to fruition. They have not, you're right, they have not developed Mac Jones, and he's regressing. You are right, man. And Mac Jones, that was funny, Cousin Randy, the stiff arm Mac Jones took on that last second play. Oh my God, did he take a shot?
My gosh. Too funny.
So the Patriots could finish, though, with 3 losses. I say I'm going to give them a chance, but this is probably the toughest division in the AFC, this AFC East. And they're finishing it with the Bengals, the Dolphins. The Dolphins already beat them in Miami this year. Then they go to Buffalo, the current 1 seed. They're going to need to beat. Yeah, like you said, they probably got to win out. I don't know. They might be able to win those last 2 of the 3 and still get in if they beat the Dolphins and the Buffalo. And Buffalo, they could probably get in.
Going to be very
Hey, come on, Patriots. Let's go, Patriots, man. Take it one game at a time. Don't let Randy distract you, man. Bengals or who you got next. They're only favored by 3.5 on Saturday. So come on, Patriots. Go get it, man. 22% chance to make the playoffs. Go get it done. Hey, let's shift gears here, man. Let's move to big bets. We're going to try to give you our picks of the week, our lock of the week, and our dog lock of the week so that you can win some cash, right, Team Money? That's what we want to do for all of our fans out here. So let's go to our lock of the week. First team money going to start it off with his lock pick.
All right, my lock pick of the week here. Bengals minus 3.5 versus the Patriots. Called it last week versus the Bucks, and I'm going to go with them again. I'm riding these Bengals this year.
Yes, you are.
These guys are 11-3 against the spread. The Bengals, everyone's betting darling this year. All right. All right. The Patriots are sputtering. The Bengals have the 5th best points per game in the league at 26.4. Patriots are more closer to the bottom half of the league. I like the Bengals with a solid run defense to go in there and keep these Patriots from scoring a lot of points. And the Bengals know that they're alive for the 1 seed here. So they're not just going to fold over. They still got to lock up the division as well. So I like the Bengals 3.5 points versus the Patriots here.
Okay. Good pick. You're backing up Cousin Randy's chug and chant issue there with Cincinnati. Nice ride on Cincinnati there. That's 1 o'clock Christmas Eve day. I'm also looking at the 1 o'clock Christmas Eve day slot going out to First Energy Stadium, Cleveland, Ohio, where the Browns are going to host the Saints. I'm going with the Browns here, man. They're favored by 3. They're coming off a big win. They beat the Ravens. That's a pretty big win there. Low scoring game, 13-3. And the over-under this week against New Orleans is the lowest of the week. The over-under is 31. Low scoring game, probably be really windy in Cleveland. We're expecting weather in Ohio, high winds and snow. So this is going to be a brutal game up there in Cleveland. It will be low scoring. And New Orleans does not play well on the road, team money. 0-5 straight up in their last 5 road games. The Browns are 4-2 against the spread in their last 6 games. And they've covered the spread against the NFC South 8 of the last 9 times. So give me the Browns at home. Favored by 3 over the Saints on Christmas Eve. Lock pick of the week.
All right. Going to be an interesting one. Browns still kind of oddly in the mix here.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the dog lock pick of the week. And mine is the Giants plus 3.5 versus the Vikings. Okay. Another betting darling of the season. The New York Giants are 10-4 versus the spread this year. The Vikings losing record 6-7-1 versus the spread. This game's always close with the Vikings, and with a good Giants defense, Kayvon Thibodeau looked like a man possessed this past week versus Washington. I like them to get some pressure on Kirk Cousins. The Giants still trying to make the playoffs here. So I like the Vikings having locked up the division to not be as motivated, knowing they can't get the 1 seed really because Philly's just too far out of reach. Coming off a huge comeback, that's an emotional, draining game. I think the Giants are going to sneak one out here versus the Vikings being able to run that ball with Saquon Barkley.
I like that pick, and I like Saquon to go wild here in this game, man.
Yeah.
Hey, good pick. Denver Broncos play the Rams at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. This game is on Christmas Day. At 4:30, you're probably sitting down for your Christmas ham, and you're going to look up, and you're going to see this guy behind me lead the Rams to victory. 2 teams that we might have predicted would have made the Super Bowl. Don't laugh, all you fans out there. You were all high on Denver before the season. Everybody high on the Rams. Everybody thought this would be a big game. No, they're both 4-10. 2 struggling teams in a game that probably is going to be very defensive. But the Broncos do not play well versus the Rams, team money, losing 4 of the last 5 matchups. I think the Rams get it done here with Baker and get the victory on Christmas Day. Rams +2 for my dog lock pick of the week.
All right. Well, let's move on to G-Man's player prop of the week. What you got for us, G?
Hey, we keep getting hot. We're hot on our player props, man.
Yeah.
I got a few picks for you here.
Okay.
One of them I do like is those Saquon rushing yards. Saquon on the rushing yards. It's still early in the week. I don't have exact props out yet, but look for Saquon to really rack it up there on the ground. I also like the KC offense in their game. Kansas City playing the Seahawks, and I like the Seahawks. I think it's the high-scoring game. It's projected high scoring. I think it will be. I particularly like Kelsey. Yards and touchdowns for Kelsey. McKinnon look at total receiving and rushing yards for the KC offense. I particularly like those two guys. And on Seattle, I think the Geno Smith and DK connection with Tyler Lockett out, Geno Smith and DK rack up some yards.
All right. I like it, G-Man.
All right. Hey, here's my lineup now for DraftKings. DFS play. I'm ready to go for the weekend with my lineup. Here's my lineup. I got the quarterback, Geno Smith. I told you to have a good day. I want to stack him with DK Metcalf. Had to pay for DK Metcalf, $7,100. But hey, I think it's worth it for that combination. I got McKinnon at the running back and Kamara. I just thought was a great value there. So those are my two running backs. DJ Moore. I'm expecting a big game from DJ and DK Metcalf at the wide receiver, along with Russell Gage, who I just needed a low-cost value guy there at my other wide receiver, finishing up with the Ravens defense against Atlanta. So there's my DFS lineup with some of those guys in it.
I like it, G-Man. I like it. Getting strong in the DFS plays.
Yeah, hey, thank you. Hey, I love it, man. Let's go on to fantasy, man. You and I are going to face it off, man. We're still in the fantasy playoffs. We're giving you fantasy advice, and we're winning our fantasy games. So come on, y'all. We are going to have to play each other. Team Money, I love your team. I love the way you run your team. You're a great fantasy general manager. But I got to take you down here, man. I got to take you down.
It's going to be an interesting one. We're both a 1 point spread right now between the two of us in projections. So it's going to be an interesting one.
That's funny. I like how you got the projection. Well, the winner of our game goes to the finals to try to win the trophy, man. So let's go get it. We're going to give you hot and cold here, fantasy. I'm going to give you hot players that might be on your bench you could start. Team Money going to give you cold players that you think you're going to start. Team Money tells you no. They're going to break your heart. Put them on your bench. I'm going to start off with my quarterback hot pick of the week. I already talked about him. Geno Smith versus the Chiefs. Geno only had 15 fantasy points last week. That's why I bring him up as somebody you might think you want to put on your bench. And he did throw for a touchdown. He threw for 238 yards. Not bad, but we know Geno can do more than that. And I think he will be doing that this week. And he's going to go up against a Chiefs D that is 29th against fantasy quarterbacks. I think he opens it up here and gets it done. He's only $5,800 on DraftKings. So that's what I mean. Good value there. Less than $6,000. Geno Smith is a start. My upside quarterback hot pick of the week.
All right. Going to be a high-scoring game. I like that one. My cold QB of the week, I'm going to go out on a limb here. All right? I'm going with the new NFL darling here, Trevor Lawrence. All right? All right. Look, I know he's projected 16.2 versus the Jets. All of his last 6 have been over 16.2, okay? But this is the number 18 versus QB in the NFL. And Trevor, over the whole year, is only averaging 18. The Jets have Sauce Gardner, the best cornerback in the NFL, and they're fighting. They still are fighting for a playoff spot. I think this is a hostile environment in New York, and they're coming off a dramatic win versus the Cowboys. So I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a colder game here. And, not an over 20-point game. Don't see it coming. So I like Trevor Lawrence as my cold QB of the week.
That tough matchup. We talked about the Jags going into the New York to play the Jets in that playoff atmosphere. Tough defense for the Jets, man. I can see why you picked him there. That's going to be a tough spot for Trevor. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Hey, let's go to the running backs. Last week, we told you to go ahead and start Najee Harris, and he did have a solid fantasy performance. Najee's had a tough year, but he scored 15 fantasy points, and that's what we're trying to give you here on the Hot and Cold Show. When we give you the hot, there's someone that 15 that you might have put on your bench. This week, I'm going to Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon, the Kansas City running back. They're playing Seattle. I mentioned that he would be a good DFS play. He rushed for 52 yards and a touchdown, while also catching 8 passes, Money, for 70 yards and a touchdown. So he's now scored over 30 points 2 weeks in a row. Will he hit 30 again? Probably not. But he gives your fantasy team a high upside. He has 4 touchdowns over the past 2 games. He's emerging as a favorite target for Mahomes, and he's only $5,900 on DraftKings. So I just think it's good value there. The guy could go off. So Jerick McKinnon, start him up. my running back upside hot pick of the week.
All right. I like it. My
Okay.
cold running back of the week here, James Conner, projected 19.4
Ooh,
versus Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is a good defense. All right. He's only had 18
yeah.
last week because he got a garbage time touchdown. I hate that. That's not a real thing. That Broncos were letting the game just kind of play out here. He scored a touchdown in 5 straight games. He's going to regress. All right. He's going to regress here. And I think personally that 2 out of those 5 games, if you look at that, he actually only had a touchdown and didn't even get to 13 points. So there's a lot more below the surface here. Tampa Bay is a very good defense. I believe they are a top 10 defense versus running backs, solid defense overall. James Conner regressing to the mean a little bit this week with no touchdowns versus Tampa Bay, and that's the reason why he's my cold running back of the week.
Yeah. That's going to be a tough spot for him. I agree. He averages less than 15 fantasy points a game, so that would support what you're saying. I don't think he gets that many either. And Tampa Bay, I think, goes in and wins that game. We talked
Yeah.
about that earlier. So good pick there, man. Last week, in terms of the receivers, we gave you Michael Pittman, and he did come through. 10 receptions for Pittman, 60 yards, 30 rush yards, got 19 fantasy points after some shaky plays. Pittman was a great play last week. Who do you like this week? G-Man, this week we're going DJ Moore. DJ Moore versus the Lions. Moore caught 5 of 6 targets for 73 yards and a touchdown. Sunday versus the Steelers, 18 fantasy points. Great showing from Moore, who has been up and down. And he has had some tough games, but fantasy managers, don't be concerned. I think you can load him into your lineup here in your wide receiver 2 or flex spot. He has touchdowns in 2 of the last 3 appearances, which is big in the fantasy playoffs. You need those touchdowns, and the Lions are his opponent, and they're giving up points to fantasy wide receivers. So DJ Moore, great buy on DraftKings, $5,500. Again, under 6,000 for these hot picks that we're giving you. DJ Moore, start my upside wide receiver hot pick of the week.
All right. Both teams alive for the playoffs there, so it'll be interesting with the Lions Panthers. My cold wide receiver of the week, I'm going with another Jaguar, Christian Kirk, projected 13.5 versus the Jets. Jets, second best versus wide receivers in fantasy. So again, very tough on the wide receivers. This is going to be an Evan Ingram game more than it's going to be Christian Kirk, Zay Jones. This guy's up and down, all right?
Yeah.
1 week he'll have 8, then the next week he'll have 20. Last week he had 15. Here comes the next one. So the last 4 games, he's only had 2 over 13. He's had 2 under. So he's kind of a roller coaster here. He had 2 over 13. Now this one is coming down. So with the tough defense, Trevor Lawrence is going to struggle. I think they're going to really lean on ETN and Evan Ingram in this game because they know how good the 2 corners that they have are, and especially Sauce Gardner, baby. So Christian Kirk, cold wide receiver of the week here.
Okay, good picks, Team Money. Let's go to the last game of the week before Christmas. Let's go to Take or Mistake. Team Money doesn't know who I'm going to pick here. I'm going to give him 3 names, a quarterback, a running back, and a wide receiver. He's going to tell us whether we should take the bait and play this player this week, or if that would be a mistake. And we're going to start off trying to help these fantasy managers, Team Money. They got to win their playoff game. If they're listening to us, they're in the playoffs. Yeah. And I'm going to throw one out here to you. Kirk Cousins from Minnesota. Is he a start, Team Money? Cousins completed 34 of 54 passes for 460 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in that comeback game when they were down 33-0. Can fantasy managers count on another top 5 QB performance by Cousins as his Vikings head into a Week 16 matchup against those Giants? Team Money, is Kirk Cousins a take this week as an automatic fantasy start, or would that be a mistake?
I don't know about automatic, but I'd go with that's a take here. Okay. Automatic is reaching, top 5 is reaching, but you're looking, Jalen Hurts is hurt, or you have someone that's injured at the quarterback position, right? Like, I think that this guy would be a solid sub if you've been starting Brock Purdy or Ryan Tannehill or guys like that. I would start Kirk Cousins as a top 10 to 15 play for sure.
Okay, okay. All right, it's going to be interesting to see here. Hey, running back T-Money, how about Deion Jackson from Indy? After Jonathan Taylor was injured, Deion Jackson rushed 13 times for 55 yards, caught his only target for a touchdown, put up 11 fantasy points. Can fantasy managers count on Jackson to come through with double-digit fantasy playoff points again if Taylor does not play, and he's not playing in Week 16? T-Money, is Deion Jackson to take this week to start against the Chargers, or would that be a mistake?
I would not start either running back versus the Chargers. Personally, this week it's a solid play. They're going to be splitting a lot of their time as well. And on top of that, I think Zach Moss is actually the guy you want here. He got all the goal line carries. He also is more favored in the passing game and still had some rushing carries. So Zach Moss is the guy you want really in that offense if you're going to start one. I would not start either, but Deion Jackson is certainly not the guy in that backfield.
Okay, well, let's go to wide receiver T-Money, wrapping up the show here. Jahan Dotson from Washington. Dotson caught 4 of 6 targets for 105 and a touchdown versus the Giants and was the unexpected star of that Washington aerial attack. Can fantasy managers now count on the standout rookie to post another 100-yard game, as he now has averaged 7.5 targets over his current 2-game hot streak and has 6 touchdowns in 9 games? T-Money, is Jahan Dotson a take this week as a start against the 49ers, or would that be a mistake?
I think that's a mistake purely because he's been scoring touchdowns a lot. I know his target share is going up. But this week especially, he's playing the Niners. No, that team probably doesn't even score double digits this week. They're not good enough. And so I would be very concerned starting anyone for Washington. That's the best defense in the league right now, San Francisco is. So stay away from anyone on that team.
And so even a player like Jahan, no, says T-Money. Washington goes to San Fran at San Fran. San Fran favored by 7 on Christmas Eve evening. Hey, everybody, we hope you loved the show. That's it for today. We had a lot of fun. Hope you learned a lot and had fun yourself. Make sure to check out all of our segments at Father, Son, and Holy Sport, wherever you consume your content. On behalf of T-Money, I'm G-Man. Enjoy the games on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas!